Oi, I see that. What's up, y'all? It's JD Watts, and today we are here to check out 11 WWE Raw, WWE Post-WrestleMania debuts. Now, Post-WrestleMania debuts basically the Raw after WrestleMania, the SmackDown after WrestleMania. There'd be a lot of cool debuts that happens. Like, for example, Shinsuke Nakamura, um, who else? Or even the past from Monday Night Raw yesterday, from Ian Dragunov to Roxanne Perez to Jade Cargill making her in-ring debut on Raw. So this should be a good one, man. Hope you guys enjoy it. The link into the description will be down below. It is by partsFUNknown. Make sure you check them out. Subscribe over there. Let go. Okay, it is 11. All right. Whoa, hold on. Thing is acting up right now.
By God, I can't believe MJF showed up last night and cost Cody Rhodes that tag match by ripping off his neck tattoo and eating it. I was sure they were going to save that for the Raw after WrestleMania. The Raw after WrestleMania has had its fair share of peaks and valleys over the last decade, and by extension so too have the debuts we have seen on the week of shows that follow WWE's biggest show of the year. Some have been absolutely monumental, some have been decent but not impressive, and some have been the peak of that star's entire main roster run. Thankfully, on this glorious WrestleMania Sunday, we will be looking at the best of the bunch and leave the worst for next week when the post-Mania blues have really set in. I'm Tempest hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 11 greatest post-WrestleMania debuts ever. But before we get on with this list, make sure of course that you like this video and subscribe to partsFUNknown so you never miss a WrestleMania list just like it, like the plethora of lists we have done over the last month. Before we get started, keep in mind these are debuts we are talking about here, not returns, so X-Pac in 98 or Tensai in 2012 won't be seen here, just in case you were waiting to hear the name Lord Tensai for some reason. Number 11, Ember Moon. Fresh off her run as NXT Women's Champion, Ember Moon arrived on the main roster the day after WrestleMania 34 as the surprise tag partner of new Raw Women's Champion Nia Jax. The duo took on and defeated the Mean Girl pairing of Alexa Bliss and Mickie James, with Moon shining as the featured performer of the match. Moon's main roster run amounted to a whole lot of nothing, which is particularly disappointing to anyone who has had the pleasure of watching her epic run in Ring of Honor over the last year. She is capable of so much more than what WWE gave her, and that could be said about most NXT call-ups of the era, but a strong debut in front of a hot crowd is enough to land her a spot on this list. Number 10, Tye Dillinger. Is Tye Dillinger at number 10 again? It's satisfying. Anyway, Tye Dillinger was the beloved underdog babyface of the early days of NXT, dazzling fans with his ability to show all 10 fingers like a toddler when asked how high they can count. On the SmackDown following WrestleMania 33, not beloved underdog idiot Kurt Hawkins was demanding an opponent when Dillinger arrived to the cheers of the Orlando faithful. Dillinger played the hits, did the 10 thing, won, everybody was happy. But as is the case with many of these NXT folk, the happiness wouldn't last long. Dillinger picked up wins into the summer, sure, but soon enough Dillinger had everything cool stripped away from him. He was no longer allowed to count, and even his finisher, the tiebreaker, or the Ushigoroshi for my fellow nerds out there, had to be changed to a similar but decidedly worse move. He may have another chance at a main roster debut, this time as Sean the Man Who Likes Chairs, but he'll need to crank it up to 11 to have a better debut than the perfect 10. Number 9, Neville. Somehow the only person.
Switch to Chrome to protect yourself from malware, so you can surf without getting phished. Fast, safe.
That was cool.
Person on this list.
Instead of being called Adrian Neville, he was just Neville.
To lose their first name in transit on their way up from NXT, but the former Adrian Neville did find a silly purple cape when he made his WWE debut the night after the much-lauded WrestleMania 31. Fan excitement was at a level it had not been for a very long time in WWE, and that enthusiasm takes this debut a long way, as functionally, it's just Neville beating Curtis Axel quickly and decisively, but people are into
what was that? No, never mind. His match, the match he had against Seth Rollins, that was That was incredible. Nearly pinning him, but instead of the legs went on the rope, that was good. No, play it, man. Play it.
To it. This was still very early on in the days of NXT stars arriving after WrestleMania, so it still feels like a bit of a surprise. The Lucha Dragons also debuted, or re-debuted in the case of Sin Cara, on this show, so unless you were the world's biggest fan of Kalisto, the man that gravity forgot was most definitely the biggest debut of the night. Number 8, Shinsuke Nakamura. On the very same night that Tye Dillinger arrived on SmackDown, we got the half-awesome, half-bizarre main roster debut of Shinsuke Nakamura. Coming off an underrated TakeOver main event with Bobby Roode, Nakamura interrupted The Miz and Maurice's attempt at a John Cena Nikki Bella cosplay in the coolest way possible. Nakamura's personal violinist Lee England performed the Nakamura Prelude before the song of the man himself echoed through the building with all the accompanying whoas you would expect from a Mania crowd. Nakamura arrived on SmackDown with all his aura from NXT on full display, and had he transitioned this reaction to an impactful first moment on the main roster, this may have reached the heights of the debuts we have yet to get to. But he doesn't do anything! He walks out, struts around the ring, and then WWE just throw to a graphic talking about what the Wyatt family match was that night. I'm sorry? Where did the Miz's go? You couldn't find one thing for Nakamura to do besides smile and wave? Like I said, half awesome, half bizarre. Number 7, Umaga. Throwing it back to the days before NXT for a moment, the Raw after Mania 22 was not a good one, featuring such highlights as the Spirit Squad winning the tag titles and Vince McMahon announcing his intentions to punch God in the face or something. The one highlight of this shambolic episode of Raw was the debut of the Samoan bulldozer and excellent worker, Umaga. Ric Flair announces his intentions to win a 17th World Championship when he is interrupted and subsequently murdered by Umaga, debuting alongside Armando Alejandro Estrada. Rolls off the tongue like silk. The Samoan Savage gimmick has never really sat well with me, much less as recently as the mid-2000s, but Umaga would go on to be a massive player in WWE's main event scene for the next few years, with his matches with John Cena serving as a career highlight. And while some of these debuts feel like a debut out of necessity for a post-Mania pop, Umaga's debut had purpose and should be revered accordingly. Number 6, The Revival. Say yeah. Yeah. No. Stop it. Not you. The week after WrestleMania, accordingly. Number 6, The Revival. Say yeah. Yeah. No. Stop it. Not you. The week after WrestleMania 33 was a good one for debuts, as this is the third one on this list, but while Tye Dillinger and Shinsuke Nakamura may have both received the fanfare necessary for a great debut, the Revival were the ones that did the most with it. FTR had their NXT farewells at TakeOver Orlando in a fantastic three-way battle of the acronyms with DIY and AOP, and while the Revival's WWE runs were beset with injuries right out of the gate, and that did do a lot to kill their momentum, for their first night on the main roster, the no-nonsense Revival being put opposite the all-nonsense New Day was a perfect move. This rivalry could have been legendary had fate not stood in the way, but this debut gave us all a taste of what we would be missing. Number 5, Mankind. That's right, y'all, the Raw after WrestleMania debut isn't a new thing. When Mick Foley arrived in WWE, those at the top sure had some wacky ideas for him, namely being called Mason the Mutilator, who I'm sure would have made magic with the Ringmaster, but thankfully the creative mind of Mrs. Foley's baby boy was put to work on the double. Mick is recalled coming up with the ideas for the name Mankind and the use of different intro and outro music for the character, and thankfully WWE went with every one of his ideas. What Mick didn't anticipate, however, was just how big a deal he would become in WWE and how fast that would happen. Foley beats Bob Holly and his spark plugs in the first match of the night, and then reappears at the end of the show attacking and starting a career-defining rivalry with The Undertaker. It is a bit lacking in the pomp and circumstance department, as even though this is the night after WrestleMania 12, it is still a Raw crowd from 1996. But still, in terms of sheer importance, you won't find many more impactful debuts after a WrestleMania than Mankind, the Mutilator. Number 4, Enzo and Cass. The Raw after Mania 32 is a very strange show. It mostly felt like it was trying to undo the decisions of WrestleMania. Shane gets control, Ryder loses the IC title, AJ becomes #1 contender. It is a tonally dissonant show. However, the moment of the show that has received near universal praise was that of the arrival of Enzo Amore, who was a certified G and a bona fide stud, and Big Cass, who is 7 foot tall, and I don't know about you, but I've never seen a class advertised for either of those things. Must be impossible to teach or something. For all his faults, you give Enzo Amore his silly microphone and he will produce a promo that makes people react. He roasted the Dudleys and put this NXT team on the map to such an extent that just a few months later, they were teaming with John Cena on pay-per-view. Few NXT debuts have seized their moment quite like the leopard-spotted Gecko and his tall friend. It is just a shame that WWE promptly saw this and thought to themselves, how soon can we make the tall friend a single star? Number 3, Brock Lesnar. No, not 2012, that is a return, you silly Billy. No, instead we have to wind the clocks back a decade earlier to the night after WrestleMania 18. The Montreal crowd may not have known exactly who Brock Lesnar was when he turned up mid-match to run through the hardcore goofy goobers of Maven, Al Snow, and Spike Dudley, but by the end of this minute-long beatdown, I'm sure many of my fellow Canucks knew they were seeing the next big thing with Paul Heyman by his side. The powerbombs that poor Spike Dudley had to take are sickening, and they just keep coming. Add in one of the most picture-perfect F5s of all time to Maven, and you have the most destructive debut after Mania in history. If you're gonna debut a new top star, there isn't much more you could have done besides just giving that person the title, but we might just get to that shortly. Number 2, Goldberg. Goldberg's year-long foray into the WWE.
Alright, so there's one more. Who could be the last one? Who could be the last one? Who could be the last one? Did Kevin Owens come back on the Raw? Did he debut on the Raw at WrestleMania? I'm not sure. But hold on, was Paige on his list? I don't think Paige was on his list, if I remember. So I'm gonna go with Paige or Kevin Owens. Both of those, Paige or Kevin Owens.
World starting in 2003 is not regarded very highly, given that he was stapled to Triple H for half of it while Triple H was at his most tedious, but overall Goldberg just wasn't a fit. His style didn't mesh with the WWE main event style of the time, still looking at you Triple H, and he wasn't made to look nearly as cool or as badass as he was during his heyday in WCW. That is, except for this night. On the night after WrestleMania 19, The Rock announced that at 30 years of age, he had done it all and would be leaving the WWE, only to be interrupted by the long built-up entrance of the debuting Goldberg. Gorg told The Rock if he was asking what is next for The Rock, he had an answer. The Rock was next, and Goldberg gave him one hell of a spear. The match they had at Backlash wasn't particularly good, but one of the biggest stars in WCW history and one of the biggest stars in WWE history squaring off felt like everything the Invasion should have been, even if Goldberg's run just goes to show why most WCW stars didn't want to come to WWE at all. And number 1, Paige. Like I said, what more can you do to have someone debut as the new top star than put the belt on them immediately? After a lengthy time in NXT as their women's champion, the Raw after Mania 30 featured the debut of the 21-year-old Paige, who interrupted Divas champion AJ Lee and promptly defeated her for that horrible title. Here's a comparison I bet you weren't expecting to hear today, but this kind of is WWE's version of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Rainmaker Shock of 2012. The reigning champion has set all the records possible with their given title, they have just defended the belt at the biggest show of the year, and then they drop it to a complete newcomer, resulting in a brand new star. I mean, I don't know if I would go so far as to say that Paige is WWE's Okada, but otherwise, the comparison is basically one for one. Hell, this was so big that it became the climax of a major Hollywood movie, which will never not be surreal to me. But in terms of a post-WrestleMania debut, and in particular ones that are NXT call-ups, we are still waiting for someone to top the girl from Norwich. I'm so sorry. Norwich. It's Norwich. Apparently this is a big deal to them. I'm so sorry. And that's our list. Please make sure, of course, that you like this video, subscribe, and make sure you learn how to pronounce your...
Alright, that was a nice little video. I mean, Paige deserves to be number 1. I guess she's coming in at AEW. But I'm getting ready to see what they're gonna do in AEW about the whole Jack Perry and CM Punk whole All in London thingamajigger. But we going ahead and talk to y'all. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's your boy JD Wats. you want to watch the original video, the link on the description down below is by partsFUNknown. So you subscribe to them over there. I'm out.